Hi, it's Laura Holyoke, and I have an overview of the structural lens for you. Something that I wanted to point out to you was the role that organization development plays in an organization in terms of looking at what we might look at in terms of structure through the structural lens, and things like unclear goals in an organization, poor quality of output that's happening, could be poorly designed tasks that fall under structure. Poor alignment to the organization's strategy is also one area that structure that we can help out with, as well as inappropriate organization structure for what the organization is actually doing. Looking through a structural lens, we take out humans. So it's all the non-human aspects of an organization in terms of how it's built. Metaphors for structure include a blueprint, it could be design, framework, the linkages between one area or another, and it could be the foundation that's built. Structures are necessary to make organizations look legitimate. If we don't have structure, people often don't think organizations are legitimate. So if you think about structure in terms of an organization needing a mission and a vision, needing processes, controls, rules that are written down, that's what structure is. When we restructure an organization, the easiest changes that we can make are made at the structural level. That is, if you think about changing culture in an organization, doesn't relate to structure, much harder to do. But we can make structural changes in terms of processes, or even a change of a letterhead is a structural change. Gareth Morgan uses the analogy of a clock, that organizations are efficient machines with replaceable parts that function in an orderly way to accomplish goals. So again, if you think about the machine as the structure of an organization, and the clock, that the structure is the clock itself. Again, people are not involved in it. I always need to remind myself of this. I'm not going to take a lot of time on the next couple of slides because all of it is written in your Bowman and Deal chapters. So division of labor needs to be taken care of, as well as tasks, and who does what tasks and how they are differentiated. So I think about this. I think about organizations starting in our families, and the very smallest unit of an organization could be a husband-wife, a family that's getting ready to be started. So what needs to be decided in a household are things like who does what, and when that what gets done. So who does the dishes, who does the grocery shopping, when does that get done? So we find arrangements within our family organizations, or we tend to suffer from the fallout. The same in business organizations. Coordination happens on two different, I don't want to say levels, but two different ways. So there's vertical coordination in organizations, so those involve levels of authority, the rules and policies, so we can have predictable and consistent behavior. The planning and control systems, we're going to talk about some of those here coming up, as well as how organizations are laterally coordinated, how meetings take place, and the task forces that do things, and networks within an organization. Organizational charts are also part of the structural lens. So if you can think of a hierarchy or the vertical lens, this cartoon kind of fits. Every organization has what's called its technology that it uses. So organizations produce something, and that's usually their core processes. So in order to produce something, that's what happens in the middle of an organization. We first have inputs. So let's take a school, for example. The inputs are usually students that don't know don't know enough, they need to work through a grade level. The technology is the teaching and pedagogy that happens within the schools, and the outputs are educated students or educated human beings that are going to contribute in society. The inputs are raw materials. What happens inside the organization is called the technology or the throughput, and then the output is what every organization strives for. Every organization has two kinds of technologies, the core technology and support technology. So core technology in a school is the education of students. Everything else that happens tends to be support technology. So if you think of serving food, the cafeteria is support technology within a school, as well as things like custodial services, secretarial services, and all supporting technologies have their core. So in other words, if you look at the cafeteria, their core technology is food and serving the food to students. Charles Handy in 1989 came up with what's called the Shamrock organization. And what he said was that our organizations are going to look more like shamrocks. And he was right. So in other words, he said, let's take the university for example. Universities used to offer everything, not only education, they would also offer housing, they would also take care of their own grounds, and they would also offer all the food services on campus. Andy said that, and this is protecting the core technology, that at a university, the first thing to be protected would be teaching of students and the research. The second part of the Shamrock would be what's called, he called it the contractual fringe. That is areas of service that the university no longer, or decides to no longer provide, or can no longer, it gets too complex for them to provide. So I don't know if we still have Sodexo, but the University of Idaho does not provide food services on campus. Sodexo does. In some universities, they no longer provide facilities and maintenance or lawn care, if you will. Instead, that's hired out. And so for each one of those contractual areas, they have their own core area. So food services, those people, that's their core area. Then the flexible workforce are people that come in that work part-time. They may be the people that come in, let's say if it's food services, that come in over the holidays to help when things are busting. Things are busy, I should say.